Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Becky, will you call roll?
Mr. Avery? Mr. Gastrite?
Here.
Mr. Haggard?
Here.
Ms. Hunt? Here. And Ms. Flirt?
Here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. As we get settled in, if everyone can be sure to silence their cell phones, at least put them on vibrate for all of us. While we do that, I will read our board commitments. The Covington Board of Education commitments. To keep students at the center of our discussions and decisions, the members of the Covington Board of Education pledge to do the following commitments. We will be open-minded and value everyone's point of view, that each board member will be encouraged to express their views. We will agree to disagree respectfully, that each decision will be based on facts and district goals. We will complete routine business efficiently and devote time and talent toward visionary plans. We will lead and be guided by and accountable to our community, and to respectfully remind each other of these commitments. All right. I've been told we do not have public input, so we can get right into our informational items. To start out, we have personnel actions. We have Mr. Grind with us today, so if we have questions on that, he is here to assist us with that. Are there any questions about the personnel actions today? All right. Well, I believe we can move on then to the second item. We do not have Ms. Brady in today. She says that she apologizes that she can't attend. So if we do have questions, I'm not sure who we have. Mr. Grind, you can answer. Okay. But we have a couple items that she would be helping us with today. The first one is about the occupational therapy contract, and the second is for the physical therapy contract. So,
yeah, these are, she brings these periodically. These are required to comply so that they can service student IEPs.
All right. Are there any questions about these two items? No? And then these will need approval. Is that right?
Yes.
So are we okay to put those on the consent agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, great. Moving right along, we have Stacy with us tonight. She is going to talk to us about the Ojdp mentoring program. I knew I was going to struggle with saying that acronym. I was like, OJJ, GG. Yes.
So we have a Covington Partners actually has a grant opportunity through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquent Prevention Department. It's a federal grant. It is, quite frankly, written just for us, not really, but we fit all of the criteria for this grant. So this grant is designed to support mentoring programs that have been in existence for at least 3 years. It's designed to expand that program, and the goal is to improve outcomes such as academic performance and reduce school dropout rates for youth impacted by opioids and other drug misuse, and that could be themselves or through families or with their family. One requirement of this grant is that we have to partner with a drug treatment facility, and so we have reached out to St. Elizabeth. The district doesn't have a sole treatment provider, and this is just for referrals. And so we would partner with St. Elizabeth. They haven't responded to us yet, but so we'll keep that is a requirement of the grant for us to partner with an agency like that, simply as referrals. So we're in the process of looking for that agency. Our first choice, I guess, is St. Elizabeth, and then we would work with other partners if we don't hear back from them. But it would be case management with those students and those families, getting them the support that they need, and also providing an opportunity for us to expand our mentoring program at the same time.
Do you have a deadline to where the grant needs to go in?
So we do have a deadline. The grant is June 6th, so we have a little bit of time in can certainly put this on the consent agenda.
Sounds good.
Or I'm happy to answer questions
Sure.
next meeting
Any
as well.
questions? Mr. Hackett?
Is the 625,000 for 3 years? Is that total or per year?
It's total. So
Okay.
it breaks down to about 200 and some 8,000 per year. One other thing that would make us kind of go to the top of the list for priority consideration is if we partnered with an organization that is focused on minorities in our community. And so we are hoping to partner with Esperanza Center. If we do that, they do get 30% of the funds. And so it comes out to about 62,000. But our data indicate that particular population has some significant issues with a particular substance, and we would be able to provide support for them through this program. And of course, all students, but wanting to partner with that agency would certainly take us as a priority for the grant.
Is there any match required?
There's no match.
That's a great grant. Awesome.
Are there any other questions? Are we okay to put this on the consent agenda for
Yes.
next meeting? Great. All right. Thanks, Stacy. Next item we have is to amend the board policy, and this is specifically around the classified salaries. If we do have questions about that, we have Mr. Grind with us tonight. Are there any questions?
Why?
Why?
Yep.
This is an issue that we have people that will transfer at times from one position out. As a teacher, and then I became an administrator. I go back to my first year on the salary schedule as an administrator. I don't start at 10 years where I was as a teacher. Classified, it's a similar situation. If you move from a secretary here at the Board of Education, from a secretary in a school, and it's a lateral move, you get 4 years credit. Where we run into problems sometimes is people giving years of experience to somebody coming from outside often. And again, if it's a similar job, we're good with giving years of experience. Where we run into problems sometimes is we get somebody that wants to transfer down to a payroll position, for example, and they end up making more. If you got all the years experience, they could make more than their supervisor makes. And so we're trying to be as consistent as possible. We looked at some other districts. This was an issue that doesn't happen all the time. And there is some flexibility in this policy that superintendent on certain cases can make some adjustment, but we're just trying to be as consistent as fair as possible. And so we need to not have people out in the schools making decisions about how many years of experience. It should be happening in the personnel office and verifying those years.
Mary Ann, you've reviewed these changes. You're good with them?
Yeah, I looked at before tonight's meeting and I'm fine with these changes.
Are there any other further questions?
I have a sense that you're not on this. Could you tell me that you're not agreeing with this? Could you tell me why to
I
help me
agree.
understand?
I agree.
Okay,
Just want to know why we were doing
okay, all right.
it.
I just thought, am I not seeing?
Made
something?
sure our attorney made sure it was legal,
Yeah.
so we're all good.
No problem.
Sometimes
Thank you.
With some of these policies, it's actually required by statute. And I actually did look at the statute on classified salaries is like, you know, so, yeah, it's fine.
All right. And we will need to approve this. So is that okay for the consent agenda
Yes.
It's under, for the consent.
for
yes.
next meeting?
Okay, sure.
Is that okay? Okay. All right. We're going to go to number 6. That's the resolution to opt into HB 678.
Mary Ann, did you want to speak on this one or do you want me to?
On HB 678.
You wrote a letter in here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that's-
Yeah, this is what KSBA sent to all districts about if you wanted to opt into HB 678, which was the resolution on the facilities. Basically, what the legislature did, you know, in a nutshell, I wrote a memo on this that I'm sure I guess that you've seen in the packet. Because there's been such a backlog in approval of improvements down at KDE, and that's been that way for a while. But now we're in a period of time where we have supply chain issues, construction costs are going up with each delay, and we've also got interest rates going up, so it could affect bonding. So the legislature created this basically channel where on a temporary basis for school districts, if the boards opt into it, that they can just basically do their own approval process. Now, we still have to follow the same building codes and everything that, like safety code, that KDE would be looking at, but instead of going through KDE facilities for approval, we would be taking that on. And as I said in the memo, you might have a little bit more upfront costs on these things because now you're going to have to pay. You may have to pay an architect to do this, to make sure that you're code compliant. But I think in the end, you're going to actually save money because you're not going to get hit with the higher interest rate and the higher construction costs, right, from the delay. If it takes a year to 2 years for KDE to give you the approval, you're losing out of the value of that dollar. So I recommend that you enter into the resolution because we will have, in this year, we will have facility improvements and that will streamline it. Now, as part of this legislation, KDE is supposed to be looking at their own policies and practices on how to streamline this process so that we don't have these backups that we had. And it's really been the case for a couple of years. It's been a while. And so, hopefully we'll come out with a more streamlined process at the state level. So this is just sort of a stopgap to allow us to move forward. And I know that most school districts are adopting this resolution.
Got a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, do we have the personnel that would have the expertise to make sure all of our ducks are in a row?
We've always worked with the architects.
We just had a construction meeting this week and Mr. Neff said most of the architect already does this. So really there probably won't be a lot of extra costs. But yeah, it would be them helping us to make sure we're following all the rules and regulations. So I just wanted to share that's what Mr. Neff had said. And he's been dealing with the architect for years before he retired.
And is there a deadline that we need to, are we date sensitive on this?
You can put it on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put that on the consent agenda.
All right. That sounds good with me. Are there any other questions before we move on to the next item? All right. All right. We are going to move into, this is number 7, and this is the STEP grant from KDE, and we have Mr. Grine here to talk to us about that.
Yeah, wasn't a whole lot in the packet, obviously, but the STEP grant, we don't know how much money they're talking. I think they initially said it could be $15,000, but it also depends on how many districts apply. And they also said that if you're a high district with high free and reduced lunch numbers, you could get more than other districts, which we are a district that is high on free and reduced lunch. Ultimately, we hope to get $30,000 to $40,000 for this grant when they do finally issue the money out. What this whole point of this grant is, do you have some people working in your schools in a classified position, possibly an instructional assistant, could be a secretary, could be anybody in a non-certified position. This is a way we could help promote and get some people from within to be able to move in some of our teaching positions and support them through the college process. They still have to do the application just like you would any other time. You still have to fill out your financial aid, but this would be a way where we could help supplement some of that income through that grant.
Is it date sensitive? I know what it says, it doesn't tell me anything in the packet, so that's why.
Right.
I thought this was the email that we got, that it was already due.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like it's already been submitted?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Anybody know?
that
okay.
is.
I haven't had any new emails come in for over a week.
This was last week. I know you replied all to it, Mrs. Hoff.
Okay,
You had a question about.
all right, thank you.
Yes, I do remember that. So are we okay to put this on the consent agenda, or do you need approval tonight?
I think you can consent agenda.
Okay, we will do that for the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Grine.
Yep.
All right. We have the district benchmark assessment. We do have, as you can see, Mr. Alter up here today. We also have Ms. Lindberg here. How would you like to do this?
I can talk from
You
here.
can do it? Okay, go ahead.
Press this green button, right?
I think that it's already on for
Okay.
you.
All right. So we wanted to, throughout the year, we've been discussing with you where we are continuing to build an assessment system in our district across kindergarten through 12th grade. Over the past 3 or 4 months, Ms. Lindberg has been working with a company called Pearson to expand our benchmark assessment system in our district. On the sheet that I gave you here, tonight we're going to try to really explain what assessments we've expanded to, and then also cost, how we did that. So this form that I gave to you shows you from K through 12 in 21-22 this year, our only benchmarks in our district were 3rd through 8th grade that were tied directly to our Kentucky academic standards. Over the past year, like I said, Ms. Lindberg has been working with Pearson to expand upon those benchmarks where I bring those reports to you from Transcend. So starting next year, we'll be able to bring reports to you, benchmark reports, which means these are assessments that are given outside. These are district assessments that we give. So they come down straight to the schools. They're cold assessments that have been developed by an outside agency. So next year, we're adding whatever's in the blue, ELA, math, and science. And you can see for 3 through 8, we're adding science, and then 5th and 8th grade social studies. And then also, which is exciting, we are going to have English 1 and 2, algebra 1 and 2, geometry, high school science, and 11th grade social studies. So we're going to have more middle school and high school data to share with you next year. These assessments will be written by Pearson, and we get to make sure they're what we want. They'll be sent to us, and we'll vet them through Ms. Lindberg, our high school principals, and people like that. In 23-24, they will write us social studies assessments. This Kentucky academic standards for the social studies are really new. So the banks are being provided. It'll take another year. Some important information about these, like I put down below, they're online. They're very similar to what our kids will see on Kentucky academic tests, and what they've seen on Transcend. So I'll explain. Transcend, which we're doing right now, is a benchmark created by the same company. So Transcend would not be able to create all these new assessments, and we didn't want to wait a year. So we're with the same company, same kind of assessments, but we got out of the pilot, and we're going to go where we can provide all of our students benchmark assessments. The data reports on these are much more thorough. We can drill all the way down to the standards. I have all the important information down there for you. We talk about Mastery Connect. Mastery Connect, we still are keeping. This assessment builder and data is what schools use, and teachers create assessments, formative assessments and data at the school level. And then the benchmark assessments through Pearson, those are the ones that district will push down, and we're able to report those district-wide assessment results to you 3 times a year. Cost is on your packet on this sheet right here. We tried to show you that we really, I know that Mr. Garrison likes to say, okay, if we're doing this, what are some minus signs? What are some subtraction signs? And because we don't want to overtest our kids either. So the benchmarks in the first year at the top, year one, to create will cost $263,560. That's Pearson creating assessments, especially for Covington Independent Schools. And we would plan on paying for that through ESSER. That's a one-time cost. Also, we put some things on there to show you what we might be doing next year with is meetings with iTeam, which will be $30,000, and we usually cover that through Title I. Star CBM, okay? Star CBM is phonics, phonemic awareness, what little kids take when they're learning how to read. And Mastery Connect is 0. I just wanted to point out that box at the top because that's a one-time cost. We showed you what year 2 and year 3 would look like. Year 2 is still $88,000 because they are creating the social studies test for the first time. When you get down to the third box, that's third and beyond. So every year for these assessments, we will be paying $55,235. And we will pay it with ESSER. And when ESSER is gone, we'll pick it up through Title I. I also showed you Miss Lindbergh did this. If we maintain this, we will have iTeam $30,000 a year. That's where we would do data analysis with our teachers throughout the district with this. Star CBM, the phonics test for little guys. Mastery Connect, in-house testing. We will do ESSER on that till we cannot anymore move on to Title I. Down below, these are costs we're eliminating. This is a big one. If you look at STAR testing per year, that's costing us around $55,000. So what the Pearson is going to cost us $55,235. We pretty much are flipping our tests what we're doing. So we're not paying for the actual STAR test anymore. We listed what we have paid for iTeam over the past 3 years to build our curriculum. That cost will be around $30,000 a year only moving forward. Transcend testing will be gone. That's $8,000 that we're not paying. And Odysseyware, we're looking at ending that contract in 22-23. That would be $28,000. So really, what I want to show you is the Pearson benchmark assessments and STAR testing is pretty much a wash when it comes to we're not adding really anything to our budget as far as adding these Pearson assessments. So, and these are, I know the board has asked consistent for more from our data, and that's, I think we've continue, and this is the pretty much where we're at and where we'll be starting next year for our system. Any questions about that?
You didn't even have to stand up to talk. How about that?
That was good. I like sitting down here.
I think it's really important that we know what our kids are doing by our assessments and not the state or the federal assessments.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a move in the right direction.
I agree. My only concern is, I know that you touched on it a little bit, but we are not adding extra tests.
No.
Okay.
No, we're not.
I just know that we can test a lot.
Yes.
So I just want to be sure that we're not adding a lot to the students and the teachers.
So one of the things I want to add there is the benchmark assessments. Everything we do besides the K-Prep or KAS is really formative, meaning we use it to how do we meet our kids' needs. Mm-hmm. The last time I came to the board, I said we had data that our schools right now can make adjustments, like you said, for the Kentucky State assessments or whatever. Like we are making adjustments right now based on these assessments that we're doing this year. We know where we're at. We know where our kids are at. So we're using informatively to make decisions. And that's why we're taking STAR off the plate. Mm-hmm. That's why we're taking some of these things, Transcend, off the plate, because we do not want to over-test our kids, but we need the information.
Sure. Any other questions, Mr. Haggard? Mr. Gastrite?
Yeah, I was just curious, under the savings, you put the I-team stipends under there. And I know the I-team was a big part of the PLCs. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure I have all the systems in place. So how does moving to the Pearson testing reduces our need to support the PLCs? That's what I'm trying to figure out, why it's savings.
Well, the actual, it's not what we're actually, when it comes down to it, if you want to look at for the next 3 years, I-team has gone down to will be around $30,000 a year. The savings at the bottom is I guess I said the wrong word. Costs that will be being eliminated.
Gotcha.
So STAR testing is being eliminated. So that means we're replacing it with Pearson, which is a wash pretty much according to the prices we have. And then the I-team, we just wanted to show you those will be going down then after.
Yeah, that was an investment we made to get the curriculum in place. And now that we have it in place,
yes,
regardless if we changed assessments, that cost,
right,
that investment has been made, and we're now moving to the 30,000 to sustain the curriculum.
That's where teachers will come together and be looking at these assessment results together.
Okay.
I'm not saying that in the future, in 5 years, if Kentucky, the state, changes the standards, we may need to tweak. And everybody knows that's 5 to 6 years. The savings, basically, what you take off Transcend, Odyssey Wear contract, those are things that'll come off. It's not a huge savings, but what we wanted to show is we're not bringing up the price anymore, trying to stay in the same ballpark. And Pearson's worked with us on that.
Now, is Odyssey Wear, is that the online education system?
Yeah, Odyssey Wear is, that's something that we started with for when we were during COVID.
Yeah.
Edgenuity has, due to at the high school level, middle school level with the Bulldog Virtual Academy, and also kids getting credits that they need to, that they don't have. Odyssey Wear was the elementary system, virtual system. And it's something that has not been popular and not been used as much as anymore.
Yeah.
So that is something that we're probably looking at letting go, because we don't want to pay for anything that everybody is not using.
Right. And then I noticed in the reoccurring expenses, the STAR CBM is still there, but we're not going to need the STAR testing.
Right.
So what's the CBM stand for?
Curriculum-based measure. So
Okay.
STAR CBM starts around kindergarten. We actually give it all the way up to 6th grade this year. Letter sounds right up the line. And that's a very important test.
I have a follow-up question. Are you done, Steve?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we know that we're not online learning for our elementary.
Mhm.
And that's where Odyssey Wear came from. But if we have a situation to where we're going to have to do an online again,
Yeah.
and Odyssey Wear is gone, what are we going to do?
What happened was our teachers preferred Google Classroom
Oh, okay.
and putting their own assignments to there and communicating with their students.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So the second section of this has a quote for the assessment itself. Is this what you are hoping that we approve, or will we get a more formal?
I don't have, wait, okay,
It's-
got
yeah, I think
it.
it's on the next page.
Yeah.
It says it's just a quote, but I was curious if if we will be getting more information on this, more of like an actual contract and what we would be paying for, or is that just like the next?
That's the next step. Yep.
Okay. So do you need anything from us tonight or going forward on this?
No, just we
Just that
move it to the approval agenda next time. Consent next time.
Okay, but what will we be approving?
Next time, the contract.
So we will get the contract.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because I was just looking at the quote and I thought, well, what would we be approving?
Yeah.
Because we don't have like the actual contract. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Sarah,
Yes.
can I ask one other question?
Yes.
I know, I feel like I understand that these are going to be higher quality assessments. So we're going to get more consistent, better data in order to make our adjustments. I guess I feel like I'm not saying we, but as you move from assessment to assessment and there's a break, you lose the ability to use that as like there's a dead period where you don't have enough data in the new system and you're not using the old system anymore, right? So I guess I just want to make sure that by trying to save money and not over test, we aren't going to be dropping the ball on some cohort of kids who we would have used the next year's STAR assessment to see their growth, but we don't have that. And we've got this new assessment, but we've only got 1 year of it, so we can't do anything. So we end up with this kind of dead zone in terms of understanding our kids. How do we overcome that?
This year we have, like I said, for K1 and 2, we do have the Mastery Connect assessments that the kids have been taking that are directly aligned to the Kentucky academic standards. The STAR test doesn't really give us data that ties directly to what kids are learning in our curriculum.
Right.
It's more what a third grader learn across the nation. What
Right.
does, so this information drills down to exactly what our kids are learning in the classroom, and it gives that information immediately to their teachers so they can, and to us to see it. It comes to us, so we're able to. At our last cabinet meeting, Mr. Garrison asked me to follow up with schools because he saw a gap in fourth grade data, math data. So that shows you that's starting at the cabinet level. We already are looking at that data, and then we bring that to the board level too, to have that. And then you have questions too that we followed up on. So it is data for information that's happening in the classroom. And if I was a principal, I'd want it really bad. Yeah.
Right. So as a principal, you get the data that there's a gap in fourth grade math. What tools do you have at that principal level to deal with that?
So as a principal, so they would definitely, they have the knowledge of what they need to do. That's who we're asking. They're working with their coaches. They're working with their teachers. We are available to work with them. Ms. Lindbergh, myself. We have plenty of people that are reaching out to work with them, especially at the school level. Who we are helping is the teachers, and maybe the principals haven't seen those problems yet, but that's why we get the data. Now we know.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Avery, I feel like I keep skipping over you. I apologize. All right. We will move on to the report of the treasurer. We have Director Birchie here with us tonight. We have actually quite a few things with Annette tonight. Look at you. You have so much stuff.
You want me to put up a chair for you?
I know. Will it fit?
I can put them in here once I
Okay.
work on them. I think I'll be fine. I always like to have more than enough just in case. I have to put your little desk right there. Yeah, maybe. It's just, I'm afraid these might fall. Thanks, Bill. So yes, my first item, I believe, is the auditing services for fiscal year 22. So that is our current year that we are in right now. So this time, each year, the audit contract comes out from the Kentucky Department of Education. We, as a district, have to look into, are we going to bid out the auditing services or not? I talk to the budget committee about this usually every year. We chose this year not to bid out. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of audit firms in Northern Kentucky anymore. When I used to do these bids, since I've been here, we'd get 4 or 5 people. The last time I did it a few years ago, we got 2, Barnes Denning and Von Lehman. And I've heard from other school districts that they're not in the business that much to do audits anymore. They'll just do 1 or 2 that they've been doing, for these years. And so with all that information, we just chose to stay with Barnes Denning. Keep in mind, they do switch those team leads to try to keep it from not being so consistent year after year. So when I reached out to Barnes Denning, Eric Goodman, he was able to give me a quote of $21,000. So it only increased by $700 from the prior year. So he kept it stable. So we were excited to not have that increase go up. Remember, it's not a full-blown audit. They don't look at every transaction, but they are here a long time, and there's a lot of data we have to give them, but it's just not a full-blown audit because that would be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So this is an information item that I'm bringing to the board tonight.
Are there any questions? All right. We can put that on the consent agenda. Does that sound good? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next.
The next item I have is the student and accident insurance. Again, talked to through the budget committee on this. We do work with Roberts Insurance. They are like an independent insurance company, so they can go out and shop the market. And so they go and do that every year. And they brought back information, which is in your packet, in regards to a couple companies that could underwrite us. And a few of them, let's see, the one stayed roughly the same, I think, from our prior year. Some went up. So of course, if you switch companies, then we would be spending more. And what saves us a lot of times is these companies like the stability of the same customers, looking at the same claims and different things. And so that does help us. They do look at our claims, just like they do on our property stuff. They look at the number of claims we have and the severity of them. I always like to give options to the budget committee and the board in regards to, do you want to adjust the physical therapy component? Usually you only save about $5,000. And a lot of times the budget committee feels that $5,000 in the scope of the budget, it's good not to have that limit to our parents and things like that. So we are recommending, trying to think what the company's name is. Roberts Insurance would be our agent, and then it is with K&K Insurance with Zurich American Insurance Company, taking Plan 1, 100% usual and customary. So again, the premium is about $50,000, $200, and they're our current carrier, and the cost is not going up. So again, this is an information item.
Are there any questions? We can put that on the consent agenda for the next meeting. All right.
The next one we have is our property liability and workers' comp for the district. And so I gave you in your packet a little worksheet that our agent puts together, Crawford Insurance. They are the same. They're an independent agent where they shop the market for us. Liberty Mutual is our current provider. And so I asked them to see if they could shop the market and everything for us. So I'm looking for my right spreadsheet. I asked them to put notes because they originally didn't put any notes. And so I wanted to be able to get as much information to you as a board. Wright Specialty and EMC declined to quote. And there's only 3 carriers in this part of the coverage. So again, certain people only underwrite school districts. They are complex compared to, other entities. And so luckily, Liberty Mutual came back with a renewal was a little bit higher. But if you look down, we're going to save some money in other areas. So that kind of helped offset the cost. Workers' comp is a big part of it. So if you look at that with ClearPath, they took it to the market, workers' comp last year, and they just didn't take it to the market this time. And ClearPath was the best option. And so it's actually going down. So to me, that helps the stability of us staying with them. We're looking at the claims. They look at 3 years worth of claims too. And so I know we have a safety committee that goes out and has classes with people, some of the positions that, people could get hurt a lot easier. So all that helps keep that mod factor rate down to keep your premium down. So we're going to save a little bit money on the workers' comp side, even though the other package is going to go up some. The third component is cyber. We just went with cyber back a year or two ago. That seems to be drastically going up with the economy on how there's so much fraud out there. And so that is an estimate. They've not got it back in time for me to be able to give you an exact quote, but they're estimating it to be almost $20,000. So I wanted to make sure you saw all those prices in there. So if I happen to get something between now and the next board meeting, I'll make sure I lock in and give you the right dollar amount if I do get that. But again, this is an information item, just sharing with the board, and then we would bring it back for approval next time.
Are there any questions about this item, the property and liability? All right. And I guess once we get that information for the cyber, then you'll need this for approval for the next meeting.
Right, to get the information and get the ball rolling. So hopefully we'll have an exact number. If not, then we would ask you to go ahead and still approve it if this is going to be the ballpark.
Do you guys want to leave it off of the consent agenda for that? Or do you want to go ahead and put it on there?
Put it on there.
Okay,
It is what it is.
sure. Okay. We'll put that on the
We
consent
can always
agenda.
pull it off if it's something crazy.
Right. All right. Moving on to Sr1 and Sr2 update.
My favorite topic, ESSER. So the first spreadsheet is ESSER1. This is the money we got back in 2020, March 2020, the first pot of money we got when COVID hit. It's pretty well spent except the non-public portion. So I know Ms. Thompson and her team have been trying to work with our non-pubs to actually spend this money or we lose it. We have been told we as a district cannot take the money and then spend it. We have to then spend it for them. Going to tell you, it's very challenging to get them to spend their money.
What are the non-pubs?
Non-pubs are the
Yeah.
Catholic schools,
Okay.
our kids that go there.
Don't they use like Mike and Field? Don't we share those facilities with them?
I think a couple schools do because I remember,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the check.
You're saying, can we
checks.
use any of that ESSER money for, I don't know, facilities we share with them?
That's thinking outside the box. I'd have to look into that.
No, they have to use it on using the same guidelines as how we spend it.
Right.
It's got to be on those kids. So their problem, a lot of times, they might have 200 kids and they might have 4 kids that are Covington residents going to their school. So they have to use their money on those 4 kids. And so ESSER's a little bit different because you have a little more flexibility, but that's part of the dilemma. I mean, we're dealing with the same thing with Title I, helping them get their funds spent and making sure that they follow the guidelines that they have to follow, just like we do. So
Right.
there's times where we'll have to say, no, you can't buy that. You gotta get something else. Or
And we coach them.
we do.
They
We
come to us.
very coach them.
There was a coaches meeting with Catholic schools, a virtual coaches meeting with Ms. Thompson, Ivana, Heron, and each of the principals of the private schools.
Okay.
And all that, as Sarah asked a couple months ago, all that channels through our books. We have to do every PO for them. We have to pay every bill for them. It's their money. It's set aside in separate account codes, and we monitor it to say you have X amount left. And then there's all those calls to say, okay, you need to spend your money. You need to spend your money because I, as finance director, don't like to send any money back to the state, but so we do put a lot of processes in place to try to get them to spend their money. And they've had it for over 2 years.
And
And
if they don't spend it, we send it back and it's their loss, not ours, correct? Basically. I mean, our students lose, but
Yeah, but I mean, our name is still on there. It still says Covington and, it doesn't say those Catholic schools.
Right.
So we work to, spin our wheels to try to get them to spend the money. And that's why we wish when it comes to Title I, we wish sometimes the schools would opt out and say no. They're allowed to say no to Title I funding. So, if you're not going to spend it, say no from the front end and not try at the end to try to figure out what we're going to do. But it's ultimately their choice to decide if they want to opt in. So
this non-pub money is the $18,000.
$18,651. I think it was $19.20 last month, if I can remember. That is Sr1 pot money. Sr2, know that it's 2 pots of money. So there's 2 spreadsheets. That's the $9.208 million that the district has received. And so what I do is I go run financial reports every quarter, try to go in and break it up by department and school, try to give you broad categories, things that I know, technology is important, staffing is important. Sometimes you'll see I'll just put instructional materials because I know I can't put every type of book we buy and things like that. So I put these spreadsheets together for you quarterly. I bring it to the board the next quarter ended March 31st. So I'm bringing it to you now. This document is an ongoing document, so I just add to it. And so we will continue to do this until that money is spent. We will eventually, when Sr3 starts to have stuff, I will be doing the same thing for you as a board, Sr3.
Question. I'm looking at Latonia. Doesn't our custodial staff for the district take care of all of the yards? And
Which spreadsheet? Can you point me to a number?
I'm on the last one under Latonia, weed eater, trimmers, and blower. Wouldn't our district employees take care of the yards and not their custodian?
How much? What was the dollar amount again? I had Bill in my ear.
$1,071.96.
It's under Latonia?
Yeah.
Let's see if I-
Last page for the next Jilla sheet. Maybe I'm not where you are.
554G.
G. I went to GD, so I 1,000.
$71. I'm just wondering.
Those are particular things. What happened is when we as a district leadership said, school, come and present your plan to us on what some of your needs are. The principals reached out to all staff, and part of it was the custodians to say, what is some of the things you need? And so when they needed some supplies for custodians, some of the things you'll see that on here, and other schools have done the same thing.
I can address myself. When I was a principal, we had a weed eater and a little mower and things. So there was like our outdoor playground. The district maintenance services, they do the big jobs. They come in and do all the big jobs and things. And these are used just to maintain smaller areas of the school. But they're needed.
Okay.
And just to remind you, Sr2 does not have that non-publication Catholic schools. It is done by KDE. KDE absorbed that. They are working with these schools to find out how much money, if they want to opt into it and take the money, and they're dealing with doing everything we as districts do. I honestly don't think they realize what they got themselves into. Each school district is probably a little different on how their schools spend that money, but they take care of that. So you will not see non-pub allocations in Sr2 and will not be in Sr3 either.
So we're still at just about 55% spent.
Yes, with the
On
percentage that I
Sr3.
added for you, yes. So what we are doing as leadership is over the summer, I give Mr. Garrison a spreadsheet too, which is numbers. He doesn't ask for the details, so it's numbers by department and or school, how much money they have left. I know he has been talking to principals in regards to, you have ESSER money left. You gave us this plan last year. We approved it. You could start spending your money in July. Where are you with this? Having those conversations. Over the summer, he's going to be working with me, and we're going to look at this and determine then what our next steps are. Is because if the money is not spent, do we reallocate it? There's some steps, because really we should be trying to spend most of Sr2 before we start with Sr3. And no, the only thing really we as a board as a leadership team have said, is we want to do that energy savings contract with you. And so we need to get farther along on spending ESSER 2. And so we're looking at that this summer. Because remember, ESSER 2 is over September of 23. So that is very close. It's coming around, and you have to spend it by then and have the services done by then. So you can't buy something and have something happen the rest of the year. So case in point, the agenda item that Scott went over with you, that's why it said ESSER/Title I, because we could only pay for those services up to September 30th, and then Title would have to pick up the rest, because by law, we can't do that, because the services, you would be paying for something up front and paying for it.
And remind me what our ESSER 3 allocation is again.
ESSER 3 allocation, I think, is around 19.2 million, a little over 19 million. And remember, that is a component that we have to make sure we have 20% component of learning loss. So a lot of things that Scott and his team have presented, that would go towards that 20% learning loss to help with all the data and looking at all that kind of stuff. So.
Question for you, Annette.
Yeah.
On spending by the ESSER deadlines, if we are doing a BG that's coming out of ESSER, how does that work? If the contractor is doing his final closeout and it's going to happen after that deadline.
We have been told by KDE the project has to be completely done. Same concept, services will have to be done. Now, ESSER 3 is not till September of 24. That's why the concern of that waiver that we're asking you to sign to get this stuff going and rolling, because of construction companies being behind, you see houses being behind building and things. That waiver will only help get this through, that we can then for sure pay for with some of ESSER's money. And we're looking at the HVAC, all the HVAC items that we're doing, because that is air quality and that is a component of ESSER, to be able to say, okay, we're trying to tie $3 to $5 million, because that's what we are telling you, leadership. We're telling you we want to look at $3 to $5 million in ESSER. I think we're leaning towards 5 that we're going to ask the board to do, but we're looking at all that HVAC air quality things.
Right. So I know we have energy savings is in the 3 to 5 million range.
That's the project I'm talking about.
Right. And that will come out of ESSER 2, because I can get
ESSER 3.
ESSER 3.
Yes.
So you're saying ESSER 2, the other 45% of ESSER 2
Is all allocated out, but people haven't spent it. So that's where we're going to do some work over the summer to realize, are we keeping it all allocated out, or are we bringing some more in house? We do have some money left in projects that we have that then we're probably going to use for summer school, because summer school is getting ready to start. So we figured, well, if we're doing construction projects in ESSER 3, then we don't need that ESSER 2 money. So it's a moving target when it comes to budgets and trying to change the budgets when things are constantly changing with our needs here.
So this sheet, this is what's spent.
This is what's spent, yes,
Is
as of
there
March
another sheet
31st.
that shows the budget? So we can see who's not spending it, or is it proportional? Or
I've only been told by the board you wanted to see what was
Yeah.
spent. I'm
No,
more than open to sharing that spreadsheet that I
I
share
know
with
we have
Mr.
it
Garrison.
somewhere.
Yes, Mr.
Right.
Garrison
It'd be
wants
good
to
to-
know
Okay.
what the budget is versus what's spent, what is encumbered. So encumbered means it's a PO, hasn't been paid yet, and then what's available. So if you as a board decide tonight you want to see those spreadsheets, that's all you need to do is tell me, and I include those every quarter. But the first ask was what has been spent.
Are there any other questions?
Do we need to tell Annette you want to be included in that email that she sends to Mr. Garrison?
How frequently do you send it?
I do that spreadsheet for him quarterly, just like I do this. I
Yeah,
usually
that'd be
do his first, because his is a little easier versus doing 3 months worth of detailed data of how we spend money. So I do them at the same time. His was done a little bit early, a few days earlier.
I think it would be good to get an update, within the next 3 months on where we
Yeah,
are
just
with this.
copy us.
Yeah.
That you send to Mr. Garrison.
Okay, you don't want it in the board packet, you just want me to email. Okay.
Yeah, just-
Yeah.
It's so much easier for you.
All right. I think that we can move on to the Mike and Field Landside repair. How is that? Is that all done? I drive by all the time and just stare into that little abyss. The little bald spot back there. Like, oh,
So yes, I usually bring BG4s and BG5s to the board, being it's dealing with finances and closing out the project. So the BG4, when you see a BG4 from any project, that means the project is done from the construction standpoint. So the BG4 is, we're telling you now that this is on the agenda, is that it is a done project. We might have a few bills we have to pay still or something, but we're wrapping it up, that then we can let KDE know that the construction side of it is all done. And so that's what the BG4 is. And this is where I know that I sent that email and I missed last board meeting talking about it's a process with them to get it approved. I can't do the BG4 and BG5 at the same time in their financial system. So then I would be bringing it back to you for a whole month at the BG4 level, then a whole month of a BG5 level. And I just want my money to be able to put with the construction project. And so that's kind of why I ask you to approve a lot of them instead of trying to do info and approval, because I can't ask them to hurry anymore, KDE facilities. Hence why there's that regulation that you might sign as a board.
are there any other questions? We just
Not
need a
about
motion.
the landslide, but Mike and Field, there's been a request that since families of Covington Independent are using, I'm going to quote, since families from Covington Independent are using Mike and Field, they would like the playground to be updated. I've said it. So, Mr. Alter, if you would share that with Mr. Garrison. Thank you. So we need to approve.
Yes.
I'll make a
Thank you.
motion to approve the BG4 and BG 21-252
I-
Mike and Field.
I second.
repair.
Becky?
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Gastroy,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Haggard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbidge.
Yes. All right. Number 14, we have a BG5.
So I'll talk about the both of them together because they're the same concept. So these are the ones that I took BG4 last time, and you graciously approved those when I wasn't here. So that we could do the BG4. I was able to get into the fact pack system and say, hey, could you maybe approve this? And I asked for favors, but I don't like to ask them all the time or they'll never do them for me. But they approved them right away. So then I could get this on the system and enter all the stuff for the BG5s so I could get it back to you, that quickly to be able to do the BG5. And so these projects, both of them, the first one, the roofing projects, these started back in 20. So you can see how long projects take. That's why we have to be very mindful when we do this energy savings contract coming up with ESSER, because we have to follow those rules and have all that stuff paid out. But this project, the first roofing one, there's $317,000 left. So once you approve it tonight and I submit it with KDE and they approve it, this is ready to go to be put onto another project. So it's the same concept for the John G. Chiller, and I think they have like $12,000 left. So between the two of them, it's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
So they're same concept. I don't know if you want to approve them separate or approve them together, but it's the same concept. I would like to be able to get them approved at the BG5 level.
Together.
Okay.
Nope, I was just going to say, are there any questions? And then, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to move to approve the BG5 on BG 20-217, 2020 roofing projects, and the BG5 on BG 21-101, the John G. Carlisle Elementary Emergency Chiller.
I second.
Becky?
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Gastroy,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Haggard.
Yes.
Ms. Burbidge.
Yes.
Whew, I think
All
it's my
right.
last one, my normal stuff.
Yes.
March financials are in there along with the balance sheet, along with all our warrants. I just want to note to tell you that on the investment spreadsheet, I wrote a note that on March 31st, we had moved a lot of money over into the investment and my accounts were getting low. For me to make payroll, I had to move some money over. And so there's a note on the investment sheet that I took $3 million out. Like I said, it only took a day to get. I was able to, go ahead and make the payroll. And so that I just wanted to be mindful to show you that has changed. Right now, we're in good shape. I didn't have to take any money out in the month of April. Just keep in mind when those June payrolls start coming, because there's 5 of them, I'll probably have to do another one. But if we can get a month or 2 of higher interest, it's not that much work for me to move money. So I just wanted to make sure you saw that. But yeah, you have your normal stuff in here, all the warrants, the balance sheet, the financials.
Are there any questions?
My question would be why we didn't have money in the first place to pay payroll and the bill.
It was sitting in the investment account. There's money to make payroll, but because it's an investment, you're going to make more interest. And that's where I came to you as a board and said, hey, can I put money in the investment account to make some more interest if I need it, depending on how many bills I pay, our lights and non-personnel stuff that I might have to move some out. So it was really our money. It was just sitting in different accounts. So I had to get it into my main checking account to pay the bill.
It wasn't it wasn't a cash flow issue.
No.
Okay. As long as it wasn't.
No,
Okay.
right. I probably didn't explain that very well. No,
Okay.
It was money just sitting in 2 accounts. It's like you have it in your savings account and your mortgage is tied
All
to your
these little
checking
red
account.
flags was going up in my brain. It's okay.
But we're earning more interest with having that larger balance.
Right,
So that is helpful.
There's
right.
And it's nice that you can move it over quickly.
Yes.
As
Or I
opposed
would
to a CD. CDs take years
Right.
to get your money back.
Right. And we used to do CDs
Right.
and stuff. And so that's why I needed that to be able to liquidate it very quickly and take it from my savings account, which is the investment, so to speak, into my checking account and things. So yes, I don't want anybody to think we have a cash flow problem. So I'm glad
Right.
you brought it up.
If there are no further questions, I just need approvals. Well, actually, are there questions about warrant expenditure? You guys, I know a lot of times we do that together. So
Okay, I move to approve the monthly financials and the warrant expenditure reports.
I second.
any other questions? All right, Becky.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes.
Ms. Furbridge?
Yes.
And one other thing I would like to share the good news. I know I told you a couple months ago about the Fema reimbursement, that this has been an ongoing thing for probably 1.5 to 2 years. At first, I wasn't going to get any money for the district. Then I could. Then I submitted it in December. Here we are, May. We will get $292,778 on March 2nd. That is 90% of our payment. And I'm trying to push them, and it's kind of hard when it's the federal government, that I would want it. The remaining 10%, they always do that, give you 90%. They act like it won't take long to get our 10% because I need it by fiscal year end or by September, because what I think I've explained before, but I'll remind you, is these charges that we've turned into FEMA are in SR1. Okay, SR1 is over September 30th of this year. I need that money to be able to do the accounting work to reimburse SR1. So that's what I was concerned about. So I've been working the last couple days trying to put that accounting journal entry together. So it will now go into what is called a FEMA project in Fund 2, like one of your grants, like Title I. I will reimburse SR1. Now there's going to be $292,000 to spend in SR1 by September 30th. Well, I'm going to do another accounting journal entry to take it from SR2 and move it over to SR1, because now SR2 is not closing yet. So there's a lot of accounting work to make it all work and be in compliance and things. So I'm pushing really hard to get that other 10% because I I don't know what we'll do if it comes in after September 30th. So,
Right.
but good news, we have it because that's really
Yeah.
potentially taking from that 9.2 million in ESSER 2. Now I just said we have $300,000 we can spend.
Great work. Thank
That's
you.
great. Thank you,
And
Annette.
so I envision we will get the remaining 32,000.
That's great.
I'm so glad you're at the helm of the finances. Thank you.
I agree. The way that you just said all of that, I thought,
boy.
man, I'm so happy she understands that.
More finance people would probably understand it a little bit better. So yeah, I just can't take it and you have to go back and reimburse where
Right.
you had the charges.
Right.
I can't just say, oh, now I can put it in my general fund and spend it. That's not how grants
Right.
work. And I don't want to get audited by FEMA.
No.
No,
So
but
yes,
when in school board circles and you go to, KSBA and you hear the stories that
Right.
our finance director didn't do this or didn't do that. So I'm really thankful for you.
I appreciate it.
I agree.
Ditto.
Thank you.
I agree. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull? There's quite a few items. So if you want to take a minute, let me know. Anything to pull today? All right. I just need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Becky?
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Gashrite,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Haggard,
Yes.
Ms. Worley.
Yes. All right, moving all the way to number 29. We have the leadership Northern Kentucky class of 2023. We have Mr. Grine and Mr. Alter here to help us with any questions on that.
I guess my only question is,
Mhm.
why do we have to vote on this?
Yeah.
That's
He's,
a good question. I think that's more informational.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think Mr. Garrison wants us to approve it just so we know and he has our support.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to move to approve the Leadership Northern Kentucky class of 2023.
I second.
Okay.
Becky?
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Gashrite,
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Haggard,
Yes.
and Ms. Worley.
Yes.
They're trying so hard to be transparent like we have asked them to do. So
Right. Exactly. We don't have any addendum items today, which is great. Marianne, anything, a report from the attorney today?
I do not have a report.
All right. All right. New business. Anything for the parking lot today? Steve, look at you. You're so excited. I can see it.
Read my mind.
There's like a little sparkle.
No, I know. Last time we were kind of talking about some of the events that were happening in the community. And so I know I spoke with Mr. Garrison about getting an update on mentoring
Mhm.
program. So I know that he is going to provide that at some point, but just so it doesn't fall off the radar, I mentioned to him and he's preparing something on that. Also, I just wanted to let everyone know, Mary Ann and I were chatting a little bit because Tom West from the city reached out to Alvin, Mary Ann, and myself because they're about to award some contracts on IRS site. So I think they're anticipating things are going to start happening and
Yeah, it's not necessarily that they're awarding an IRB.
you're right. The demo and the
Yeah, this
prep
is
work.
just the prep work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of looking ahead and
Yeah.
discussing, what could be, I guess.
this is where we need to get our guidelines updated.
Yes.
Well, I think that's going to, so that's where that discussion with Mr. West will be.
Yeah. So we are, I guess I was hoping to get something out. And I think anything that goes to the development committee will just be to the full board plus the development committee. But I think some observations from the last IRB we looked at, I want to get some things out to people so that we can have that discussion about how we need to revise our guidelines. But I do think talking to Tom will help us focus on what, at least from an outside perspective, the city's perspective, what they are interested in discussing. So,
Yeah, especially now that Tom has seen our guidelines, he may have some ideas on how do these mesh in with the city and where we have common interests. So,
and I think, yeah, I would say the streamlining is probably the biggest thing because, if we wait until they approve, and they're very tight-lipped, like we say, well, when's it come? And they're like, well, we can't tell you it's going to get approved or not. And then it's always the last second we're finding out. And by that time, it's like the developers are in their, last 2 months. And then that's when we're having to get our meetings and so forth. So I think streamlining that process so they're more parallel and not in sequence might be helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
So we will provide an update. It looks like it's going to be end of May, that meeting.
All right. Anything else? If you will take a moment and look in your red folders, there are a couple of items in there. We do have the COVID report that Jen sends out to us weekly. We do have the paper copy here. There is Big's graduation, which is always just the cutest thing ever. That's coming up May 25th. And my house is very excited for this. Lane is going to this and she's thrilled about building. But there is some information for girls in construction. She is going to that. She's so excited. So that is in your folder to look through. And there's so many items coming up. So please do. I'll just hit a couple highlights. There's so many things. We have prom happening this weekend at the Madison, which is really, I can't wait to see
Awesome.
pictures. We have obviously some golf outings, and my most exciting thing is just to see a last day on here. I just can't believe how quickly this school year is gone, but I'm sure a lot of people are excited for those dates coming. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Do I have consensus to adjourn?
Yes.
Steve said so.
Thank you.
He said yes. The end.